Hello, my name is Dr. Giuseppe Paladini. I'm the founder of Stepping Bricks, and today we're going to talk about controversial stuff. Now, I've heard a lot of questions about the property, the housing crisis, and so on. So I'm going to answer some of the questions we had on social media. We're back, and today we're going to cover some controversial stuff. What do I mean by that? Well, I've read some of the comments on social media, on property groups and everywhere, and there are a few common questions that come back again and again and again. They're recurring questions. Now, one of the questions, or one of the statements rather than a question, is it's not easy to buy a house now compared to when my parents bought the house, a few years ago. Now, yes, the houses a few years ago were much cheaper, and today you need to save a lot more for a deposit compared to before, because the property price went up, which by the way is a good thing, okay, and I'll tell you why in a second. But it's also true that the lifestyle and the inflation, etc., in the past was a lot lower compared to today. So it's all balanced, and it's not like it was easier in the past. We tend to think that the past was always better than the present, which is not true, by the way. So nowadays you can get a house for, if you are a first-time buyer, for a minimum of 5% deposits, or 5 to 10% deposit, which is not a lot. So you don't need a lot of money to actually buy a house to live in. Now, I hear you saying, yes, Giuseppe, but I don't have 10% deposit, I don't have 5% deposit. I don't know what age you are at the moment, but I'm sure you spend the money in whatever you like, okay? So you probably go and eat out once a month or once a week. I don't know your lifestyle, but you can, I'll give you an exercise in a second. You probably have Netflix subscription, you probably have Amazon subscription, probably Disney Plus, football, Sky, whatever you like, probably gym membership you're never using, or other memberships that you're using and you're paying but you're not using. If you sum all these up, I'm sure you can save enough money for a 5% deposit. 5% is not a lot, okay? So we're talking about for £100,000 house, you just need £5,000 deposit. Now, depends where you live in the country. If it's in London, then probably you're going to leave a comment down there and say, hey, where do you find £100,000 properties? You can find them anywhere. Except for London, probably, where you just get a parking space. But the point is, I'm just keeping it square to give you £100,000 and 5% of that. But you can apply this to any price. It could be at £200,000, it could be at £300,000. Obviously, the 5% is a bit more if you buy a more expensive property, but you get the point. The exercise I'm going to give you is this. Now, download all your bank statements in the last 6 months. You can do that today. Download all your bank statements in the last 6 months, and I want you to create 2 columns of whatever you see in those bank statements. One column is essential stuff that I have to pay, and the other column is non-essential stuff I want to pay. Okay, so the essential stuff is, of course, the food, the bills, all the things that you actually need to pay. The non-essential stuff are all the memberships, subscriptions, and things that you don't need or you don't use. Okay, yes, they increase your lifestyle. Going to the spa once a month increase your lifestyle, whatever you want to do. But if you're planning to save the deposit for your house, then you can make a little bit of sacrifice, and then you can save the money up. So to answer that statement, it's not easy to buy a house now and I can't afford to buy a house, let me tell you, is not true. Okay, you can do it. And I say this is going to be controversial, so feel free to write the comments below. Be polite, please, okay? And I'm going to comment back and I'm going to reply. Another statement that I receive all the time is, oh, it's not fair that all the investors are buying properties and competing with first-time buyers. Again, there are people that don't want to own a property. Now, there are people that can't afford a property and people that don't want to buy a property. So if you remove all the landlords, the private rental sector is going to die. And if you don't want to buy properties because probably you have a job for only a year in a different city and you don't want to buy a property there because you don't like living in that city but you're just doing temporarily, then you need to rent. And if you want to rent, you need a landlord. And being a landlord, it means being an investor. And being an investor means take all the risks. Okay, it means paying the mortgage, paying for the repairs, paying for the maintenance, the insurances, and everything else. Okay, so it's not like the landlords or the investors are competing with first-time buyers, because first-time buyers have different criteria than landlord. So I'm going to bust this myth. So please make up your own mind. Don't believe everything you hear on social media, you see on social media, or on media, TV, radio, whatever. And then make sure you are educated, and then you can have you can make an informed decision on your life choices. I'm going to read the next one, which is I don't want to still be paying off my mortgage when I'm older. This is quite interesting because personally I don't want to pay off my mortgage earlier. I want to push it as much as possible, because that's called debt, and it's a good debt that I'm leveraging my money to get what I want today. If I were to pay off the mortgage, then I'm left with a property unencumbered, which means no mortgage, no debt. But then what am I going to do? Because whatever money I'm saving from the mortgage payments, I'm going to spend them to something else. So it's not going to increase my lifestyle. I'm just shifting the debt from one side to something else. Now, the mortgage is actually a good debt because you can leverage that for a small percentage. If you were to ask for a loan, a personal loan, let's say £50,000 loan, then the percentage would be around 7, 8, probably 10%, 13% or so on. Or you can try your credit cards, you can be up to 26% of your interest to pay back the loan you get on your credit card spend. So my point here is, if you were to ask for a loan for the same amount of money you have in the mortgage, you would pay a lot more if it's a personal loan compared to a secured mortgage on a house. Now, the same amount of money, what you can do instead is, rather than reducing the mortgage and paying it off, I would actually do the opposite. And I know in school and since you're born, they tell you to pay off your mortgage as soon as possible, because then you're living your good life when you are retired. And that's a scam, okay? So what you can do is to increase your mortgage, release some of the equity of your house, so you can do an additional borrowing and invest that money into a new property that you can rent out, and then you can then pay that mortgage and your additional borrowing as well, and extra money in your pocket, so you don't have to work harder to get the same amount of money. So as you can see, being a landlord, being an investor is actually a good service that people are providing to the private rental sector. You can't complain all the time about, oh, I'm paying off the mortgage of my landlord, because then you have to apply exactly the same when you go to the supermarket, you buy your grocery, and then you're saying, oh, I'm paying off whatever expenses Lidl or Aldi or Waitrose have. You don't say that, right? You just pay, get the service, get the product, and then you enjoy the product, right? So with rentals is exactly the same. You get in a service, you're enjoying, you're living in the service, in the property, you're creating good memories, maybe you're having a child or whatever situation, life-changing situation you're having, and it's all thanks to somebody that took the risk and the effort and the money to put the money to buy the property and make it in good standards for you. Now, I'm not talking about those rubbish landlords. They don't take care of the properties, they don't want to spend a penny. We don't like that, those either. We like, landlords that take care of the property and they provide a good standard for the people to live in. And that's what we do at Golden Tree Estate. So you can do exactly the same. Be a good business person. Don't be one of those scam, okay? You don't want to be one of those. Regarding the last statements, I don't want to pay off my mortgage when I'm older. The idea is always to leverage the money as much as possible. So increase your mortgage rather than paying off. And then with the same amount of money, rather than having a personal loan and buy an investment property, then you can do a release equity, additional borrowing, then investing as a deposit For the buy-to-let property, by the way, you need 25% deposit for buy-to-let and only 5% for residential. And then you can start your property journey, your property career, if you like to call it like that. So the way it works when you release equity or you have an additional borrowing is that you release, let's say, in my case, was £27,000 from my house. So I've increased the mortgage, I've released £27,000 equity. The reason why that equity was built there is because the market was good and the house increased in value, okay? I told you before at the beginning of this video, your parents bought cheap houses because that was the inflation at that time, and now they are more expensive because they increased in value. So if they still have that mortgage, which is very small, they have a lot of equity there, which means they can release it and then invest in property. So in my case, I released £27,000, then I put it as a deposit for the first buy-to-let when I started out, and then the rent from this buy-to-let paid for the interest-only mortgage on that one, which was £100, and then paid for the additional borrowing, which was another £200, and gave me extra money in the pocket. So that was just the first property that I bought. And this game, when I realized, oh my goodness, this works, then of course I couldn't stop it. You know, I just continued to buy more and more and more by recycling the cash again from the buy-to-let to the next property, and then once you increase the value of the next one, you buy the next one, and so on. And then once you have a pool of property or properties in your portfolio, your rental income every single month can allow you to buy a property or to have a deposit for the next property as well. So not only you release the additional borrowing, you release the equity, but you also accumulate and save that money to even scale the business faster. So by the buy-to-let, you need to spend something on the buy-to-let to force the uplift in value. It could be you change the bathroom, the kitchen or something, so you bought it probably a little bit lower, and then you spend the money there, you increase the value, and then you can release the new value with a new remortgage, and then you can recycle that cash and put it in the next property. Now naturally, properties will always go up, I told you at the beginning of this video, but on top of the natural capital appreciation, you can force it by changing it and improving it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to leave any comments, again, be polite in the comments about these controversial comments that I received. No, I didn't receive myself, but I saw on property groups. And if you have other controversial questions, please let me know and I'll be happy to answer them in the next video. My name is Dr. Giuseppe Paladini, founder of Stepping Bricks, one of the leading companies in property training and business and mindset, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.